Howdy my totally as always tubular gamers, and we're back with another ranking video, another Mario ranking video, and today we're going to be ranking the Paper Mario series of games. Yes, Paper Mario, developed by Intelligent Systems, produced by Nintendo, originally releasing in 2000, Paper Mario is the longest running Mario RPG series that is still running even to this day. Now, when you think of Mario and RPGs, what's the first game you think of? It's probably a Paper Mario game. While there is Super Mario RPG and the Mario and Luigi series, and now Mario plus Rabbids, I feel like Paper Mario is still the most prevalent of the Mario RPGs. We've had a Paper Mario for nearly every Nintendo system from the N64 and on. When it comes to Paper Mario games, some people just absolutely love this series, particularly the older games. People love the combat, they love the writing, they love how different it is from all the other Mario games, the paper aesthetic, and you know, I'm right there with you. And you know, even in current year, Paper Mario is still one of the most unique RPG series. I love how you always gotta time your button presses. I love the 2D aesthetic and the 3D plane. I love the writing and so much more. Now, I played Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door back when I was a young child, and this was really gateway RPGs for me into the genre. The Thousand Year Door, along with Mario and Luigi and Pokemon, really got me into the genre and why I love RPGs so much. Now, Paper Mario, while those first couple games are really beloved, in recent years Paper Mario has been in somewhat of a slump, most people would say, and it's not reached its former glory. Now, I'm not going to come in here and tell you, oh, new Paper Mario bad, old Paper Mario good, but, you know, there's definitely a difference of quality between some of the older games and some of the newer games. And that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be ranking this series worst to best. We're going to be looking at pretty much everything. How do all the games stack up against each other? What games have the best combat, writing, what games have aged the best, all that fun stuff. Let's just kind of get right into it. Now, I know Paper Mario is a bit of a beloved series, so we might have some differences. I might have some hot takes. Let me know down below why you think I'm wrong. Like, share, comment, sub, all that good stuff. Paper Mario is one of my favorite RPG series. But what do I think is the weakest in this series? It's pretty obvious. Paper Mario Sticker Star, releasing for the 3DS in 2012, has got to be one of the most disliked Nintendo games of not only like the last decade or so, but of all time. A lot of people really dislike this game and say that this is where the Paper Mario series really fell off the map and just took a tumble. And you know, when you're comparing all the Paper Marios or Mario RPGs, yeah, Sticker Star is definitely at the bottom. Now, during this game's development, producer and designer Shigeru Miyamoto actually insisted that this game would be very distinct from previous Paper Mario games, and he wanted to drop basically all the concepts from the old Paper Mario games and wanted something totally different. Not only did he want something totally different gameplay-wise, but he really wanted to focus on that gameplay and just kind of drop the story, partners, memorable characters, and you know, a lot of the things that made the Paper Mario series so popular to begin with. This has become a sticking point with Paper Mario fans, and a lot of people don't think that Paper Mario has really ever recovered from Sticker Star. And when it comes to the plot and characters, yeah, it's much more basic than like any of the other Paper Mario games, where it's about a sticker comet that lands in the Mushroom Kingdom, and those who wish on it have a good chance of their wish being granted by the royal stickers that reside within the comet. So basically, you know, Mario shows up to the sticker festival, then Bowser shows up, messes everything up, scatters all the stickers, and it's up to Mario and newcomer Kirsty to really clean up Bowser's mess, and that's like the whole story. The story is like the worst of any Mario RPG. It's incredibly basic, bland, there's just nothing going on with, there's no interesting turns, there's no interesting characters. The story just is a very linear, straightforward path that has no twists or turns. And it ultimately just feels incredibly forgettable, and it wouldn't be out of place in a new Super Mario Bros. Game. But this is a Paper Mario game where, you know, there was usually more story, characters, lore, and just character to it. The writing was just subpar, in my opinion, compared to pretty much any of the other Paper Marios. Like, this game had me laughing the least. Like, even Paper Mario on the 64 was funnier. And maybe it's just me, but I wasn't really big on the stickers in this game. Like, a lot of the visuals have to do with stickers, the story's about stickers, and the gameplay's about stickers. I just didn't really care for it. And speaking of the gameplay, while parts of it do look similar to previous Paper Mario games, such as exploring the overworld, which is pretty similar, you know, you just interact in this 3D environment with NPCs, solve the occasional puzzle, etc., I can assure you the rest of the gameplay is very different. First off, there's no real, like, RPG elements, like you don't level up, there's no skills, no partners, really none of that stuff that made the old games so popular. Instead, we have stickers, 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 and these stickers are essentially one-use cards where it would say a jump sticker, then Mario can jump, hammer sticker, etc. There's a bunch of other stickers thrown in here, but yeah, after you use it, it's gone, and you gotta actually get more stickers, and that is a bit of the gameplay of this game, is getting more stickers. There are some stickers that are needed for puzzles, and I don't know, I just never really liked this whole sticker gameplay. I didn't like getting all these stickers together. I thought it made the combat way more basic. All that really matters is what stickers you have, and sometimes you'll have to even backtrack to earlier areas thanks to the limited inventory space. It just doesn't create a fun gameplay loop, in my opinion. I don't think the stickers added all that much, and I'd much rather have traditional combat or some kind of experience or just something that isn't this. I just didn't care for how the stickers are implemented in this game, and I just didn't have a good time with it. I did not have a good time with the combat, the gameplay, and then combined with the bland story, simple presentation, it just wasn't doing it for me. A lot of people don't like Sticker Star, and I'm one of those people. I don't like it, and I don't recommend it. So here we have Mario & Luigi Paper Jam, releasing in 2015 for the 3DS. Now, Paper Jam's pretty interesting. It combines Mario & Luigi and Paper Mario as well. It really is a crossover, and unfortunately it's not as exciting as it sounds. So the game sees Luigi accidentally opening a book containing the entire Paper Mario universe and all of its continents, spreading across the Mushroom Kingdom like a bad zit. So it's up to Mario and Luigi along with Paper Mario to stop Paper Bowser and regular Bowser and save both Princess Peaches. When it comes to the game's story and writing and characters, I think it is really, honestly, rather lackluster. I think that this could have been so much more, and it could have had so much more charm, personality, interesting characters, or just something different. This just feels really vanilla, generic, and it feels like they went with like the easiest, safest route and didn't try anything really all that interesting. The writing, there's plenty of funny moments, like when Peach is able, Paper Peach I will add, is able to just go through the cage that she's in. But I would say the story, the characters, or really lack thereof characters, and the writing are generally a disappointment for not only the Paper Mario series, but the Mario & Luigi series as well. I just wasn't digging it, and I don't think that's a hot take. I think most people weren't digging it when it comes to what I just mentioned. Now, when it comes to the gameplay, it plays very much like a Mario & Luigi game, much more than a Paper Mario game. If you've played a Mario & Luigi game before, you're going to feel right at home here, and it doesn't really do all that much to stray different from the other ones. It just doesn't do it as well. You still explore around an overworld, you interact with NPCs, you solve minor puzzles. Now there's some Paper Mario puzzles thrown in there as well, like where he gets super thin or he flies around in the airplane, and they did these puzzles better in the other Paper Mario games, but they're here. When it comes to the combat, Paper Mario has his own button like how Mario and Luigi do. And the combat, it really feels just as alright as it did in the last couple Mario and Luigi games. They got some interesting team-up moves, and Paper Mario's moves I think are definitely more interesting than what Mario and Luigi themselves have. But I generally walked away from this one feeling like they just didn't really take advantage of any of the gimmicks, and that's how I really feel about the whole game. I thought that it was generally pretty bland. I thought these worlds were a bit barren. The game's not too exciting, the pacing isn't really all that exciting, and the story didn't keep me going, so I thought it was kind of boring, and I really did think this game was relatively unexciting. It doesn't take advantage of any of the gimmicks at all, and the gameplay is somewhat shallow. The presentation was fine enough and the music is like okay, but I really did think that this game was somewhat shallow, and it showed that Alpha Dream, I just don't really know what was going on here. They just weren't really capturing the magic of the first couple Mario and Luigi games. And it seems most people didn't think so either, as the game didn't have a totally tubular reception. I think really it's better to play legit any other Mario and Luigi game and almost any other Paper Mario game. And here we have Paper Mario Color Splash, releasing for the Wii U in 2016. Now, I remember when this game came out, I got it when it came out, and one of my buddies came over and we actually marathoned through like the whole game. It's one of the Wii U games I've actually finished and enjoyed. Now, Color Splash, it really doesn't change a ton of stuff from Sticker Star, but I think that it at least has some improvements here to be an overall better game. It still isn't as much of an RPG as, say, the older games, but I think what we have here is a pretty decent action-adventure game. The game has a pretty simple plot. Mario and Peach receive a letter from Prism Island where they discover that a toad was drained of its color and folded into a letter shape. They sail to Prism Island to investigate, and here the island is drained of all of its color. They then come across this can named Huey, which is the fountain's guardian, and he explains that it's powered by 6 big paint stars. And so yeah, Mario goes on his merry way with Huey to go collect all of the paint stars. Yeah, it's just as basic as Sticker Star, and Bowser still is the antagonist, but I think it's a little better than Sticker Star. The paint is more memorable. I like how the gimmick is actually used, and I like the whole painted color Bowser at least. While I wouldn't say the story is that much better than Sticker Star, the writing is quite a bit better. This is one of the better written Paper Mario games, and I actually thought it was pretty humorous, all things considered. I generally liked it. Now when it comes to playing this game, it is relatively similar to Sticker Star, but there are some key differences here. When you're exploring the overworld, yeah, it's pretty much the same as Paper Mario has always been, where you explore these 3D areas, you interact with the world, you have different paint colors, which is cool, you can paint stuff, and I always like this. There's even some puzzles that have to do with the paint, there's these little stars you can get, and the game is surprisingly pretty straightforward with its levels. It's like 1-1, 1-2, like a freaking regular Mario game, but it's Paper Mario. And you know, I'll just say it, I think the presentation's actually really good for this game. I thought even back then it looked really good, and nowadays, yeah, it looks pretty solid, and I love the paper aesthetic. They really go all in with it, which is just great. I also really like the use of real-world objects. Sticker Star had this, but this game is much better when it comes to the real-world stuff. So everything seems decent so far, but how are the battles? The battles are where things are a little too similar to Sticker Star in my opinion. So instead of the stickers, you now have cards where, you know, they're one-use cards and you use them in battle, and it'll be stuff like the jump card, the hammer card, and then a bunch of other cards as well. At least they do give you a ton of cards. You'll like never be running out of cards like how you were running out of stickers in Sticker Star, and so you don't gotta backtrack or anything like that. But I just didn't really care all that much for this combat. Like, I don't know, I just didn't think it was all that fun to use these cards, and I don't know why we had to use these cards. And then you have to use the Wii U gamepad, like you have to use the Wii U gamepad for this game, and I always thought that was really annoying, especially with its like 2 or 3 hour battery life. In fact, I just don't really care for the gamepad at all in this game. Use it for like these cutouts, use it for the battles, and you know what, I'd rather just not use this thing at all. Now, I think the game has plenty of good points to it, but I think the battle system is the weakest part of this game, and that's probably what you do most of the game. I still think Color Splash is a good game, but I don't know if I could necessarily recommend it. I think that it has a lot of great things to it, but then the battles, I'm just kind of whatever about. Like, it's better than Sticker Star's battles, but I still didn't really have all that much fun with it. I didn't think that the battles were very engaging, and I was much more interested in the other aspects of this game. Thanks to all this, I'd say the game is relatively mid, but you know, it's not a bad game, I can give it that. And so here we have Super Paper Mario releasing for the Wii in 2007. I remember when this game came out and I was right there ready to play it. I was really hyped for Super Paper Mario, and what I got was a really different type of game from Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door, but one that I think still absolutely holds up. The story of this game is absolutely wild, where Mario and Luigi decide to go see Princess Peach, but she gets captured, and it's not actually Bowser, it's the evil Count Bleck. He then forces Peach and Bowser to marry, and it summons the Chaos Heart, and then Bleck takes control of this Chaos Heart and uses it to open the void in order to destroy this flawed universe and create a perfect one. It's up to Mario and then this new pixel named Tippy that he meets to stop Count Bleck and save the universe. Yeah, this is probably the craziest Paper Mario story of them all, with a bunch of crazy original characters, and even some of the standard Mario characters are totally different from their usual counterparts, and I actually really did love it. I thought the writing was really great. The game isn't, you know, super humorous, but I think it still has some laughs here and there, but it was actually just really intriguing. And I really wanted to see what would come next with this story, because I was just actually really hooked with it. It is really weird though, and you know, Mario eventually does team up back with Peach and Bowser and a bunch of these other pixies, and it just keeps going and going, and by the end of it I was just like, what even is happening? And really great stuff. And the gameplay is just as weird as the story, where it's part platformer and part action RPG. The platforming gameplay is pretty similar to what you would see in really any Mario game, where, you know, it's just kind of point A to B and you platform, you jump around, you get some abilities, you get a bunch of pixies to actually help you with the platforming here, and I think it's actually pretty decent stuff. I think the level design is actually really interesting, and the fact that you can go from being a 2D platformer to basically a 3D area, I think this has always been really cool. But only Mario can do that, because you're not only playing as Mario, you get to play as Luigi, Peach, and Bowser here. You get like a full party, and they all have their own unique abilities to overcome specific obstacles. I actually really did like this, and I think that it really throws me back to the days of Super Mario Bros. 2, only without Stupid Toad. While a majority of the game is a 2D/3D platformer, there are plenty of RPG elements. There's not only puzzles to solve, NPCs to interact with, items to use, but you do actually level up as well. As you defeat enemies, you get stronger, yada yada yada. You know how it works. Most of the game, though, is a 2D platformer, and you will be using the pixels to help you get through these levels, defeat enemies, and fight bosses, and really just see what's going to happen next. I really did enjoy this gameplay. There is a number of parts that use the Wii's, more gimmicky elements, but I think that these were fine enough and they weren't too intrusive. Now I know that there are plenty of people who go, I didn't want a 2D platform, I wanted a full RPG like the previous two Paper Mario games, and yeah, while the RPG elements are very limited and it is primarily a platformer, I think it's actually a pretty decent platformer, and I do like the addition of the RPG elements. Maybe this is just a hot take, but I actually really dig Super Paper Mario. I thought it was fun then, and I even think it's fun now. Is it really different from all the other Paper Mario games? Yeah, it is, but does it have like the craziest story the series has ever seen? Oh yeah. And for that alone, the story alone, I can recommend this game. It is so different from any other Mario game, and the gameplay I think is interesting enough to hold up on its own. And I think that, yeah, it's a pretty good game, but is it the stellar RPG experience you're looking for? No. Is it a good game overall though? Absolutely. And here we have Paper Mario the Origami King, the latest in the Paper Mario series, releasing for the Switch in 2020. I got this when it came out, was really excited, heart of the pandemic, didn't have a lot going on, and was like, hell yeah, new Paper Mario. And you know what? This game is actually pretty solid. I know there are plenty of people that don't like this game because, it's not like the old Paper Mario games, but I think if you just look at this game for what it is, I actually thought it was pretty good. So the game is about Mario and Luigi being invited to the Origami Festival by Peach. And it's supposed to be just a peaceful festival, but when they get there, everybody's been turned into origami and brainwashed by King Ollie, a sentient origami figure. Bowser is here as well. He's been folded into a square, and most of his minions have been turned into origami and are brainwashed as well. Mario rescues Ollie's sister Olivia, who is imprisoned for her betrayal, and Bowser, and the three of them escape. And really, it's up to Mario and Olivia to stop Ollie and save the Mushroom Kingdom. I think the story's actually pretty good here. I think the origami gimmick actually totally works. I liked it more than the stickers, I liked it more than the paint, and I think the game actually does a lot of interesting things with it, not only in its story, but in its gameplay as well. I think the story is good, and I think that all of the characters are pretty good. There's not as many original characters as I'd like, and there's a little too many Toads here, not as many as Color Splash, but there's at least some other characters here, and the writing is actually pretty good. This is maybe the funniest of all the Paper Mario games. I thought the writing was actually really good. When it comes to the story, the plot, the characters, the writing, and the general presentation, I think the Origami King is one of the best that the Paper Mario series has ever seen. I think it's actually pretty good. When it comes to the gameplay, it's, again, pretty different from the old Paper Mario games, but at least, exploring around the areas is the same, where you explore a generally linear open world designed to look like paper and cardboard. You can interact with NPCs, you can buy stuff, you can solve puzzles. In this game, Mario has this ability called the Fold Arms, which is where these big stretchy arms come out and he's able to reveal stuff in the environment, like by ripping stuff off or smashing stuff. And I thought that this was cool enough. I think exploring the overworld has always been one of the better parts of Paper Mario, and it's just as good here. The collectible is Toads of all things, and you really got to unfold them with the hammer, which is always funny. And again, I think that exploring the overworld is a decent time here. When it comes to the battles, that's where things get, again, a little shaky. I think this is the biggest point of contention with this game, is this whole ring combat, where really it's about Mario lining up all the enemies so he can defeat them all in one fell swoop. Otherwise you're taking them out one at a time, which takes forever. And at first there is a little bit of strategy here, trying to figure out how you can get all the enemies lined up so you can defeat them all in one fell swoop. It can actually be a little bit of fun here, and there is some puzzle elements to it. However, after you do enough of these battles, you realize that there's only a couple variants and you can kind of use the same strategy for every single one. At least the boss fights really do mix it up, where you have to just try to get to the boss, and these are real world objects like Color Splash, and I think that these are actually much better than how Color Splash did it, minus the meat boss. That boss is great in Color Splash. But here, I think that the bosses were actually the best part of the combat. I will say I do prefer this ring combat over anything Sticker Star or Color Splash had. I didn't really care for the cards or the stickers or anything like that. I think that this is much better, even if it is a bit more simple when you know the strategy. But I would still say it's much more enjoyable, and it's just a lot more tolerable. I wish there were partners, I wish there was leveling up, and I wish there were more RPG elements. Yes, I do. But what we have here, again, it's fine. I thought it wasn't amazing, but at least I had some enjoyment with it, as opposed to really nothing. I didn't feel indifference, which is how I kind of felt before. And you know, the battle system, I know it has plenty of detractors and it's not the ideal battle system for a Paper Mario game, but you know, at least it's a step in the right direction. It's something different and good, I might add. At least it is good or decent or fine or alright or mid, or you know what, it's passable, and I'll give it that. I think the presentation for this game is one area where it's better than passable. It is fantastic. I really love how this game looks. The music's actually pretty solid, and I actually really did enjoy my time with Origami King. Despite the interesting, I'll say, battle system, I think the game has enough other elements that are good to great that really make it up, that lead me to saying that I think you should play this game. Even if you aren't the biggest Paper Mario person or you wrote this game off because it wasn't like the old ones, just give it a shot. I think you might be thoroughly impressed with it. Alright, and so here we have the original Paper Mario, developed by Intelligent Systems and released on the 64 in 2001. This really was the start to the now iconic Paper Mario series. Now, this game really looked at Super Mario RPG for the Super Nintendo and just kind of almost evolved the series from there with a very unique paper aesthetic, so everything was 2D, and the game would actively acknowledge that it was paper as well. I thought it was decently novel and unique for the time to have 2D characters on a 3D plane. The plot is pretty simple. It's in the Mushroom Kingdom, and it sees Mario trying to rescue Peach from Bowser, who's imprisoned the 7 star spirits and lifted her castle into the sky. The story's nothing crazy, it's nothing you haven't seen before from a Mario game, if not dozens of Mario games at this point, but the way the game is executed is actually a bit different. Like, having to get the star spirits, I think, is a nice twist on things, and I think the writing actually really makes up for this game's somewhat basic plot, as I think the writing and the characters are all actually really good and some of the best that the Paper Mario series has ever seen. In fact, I would just argue that it's some of the best that Mario RPGs have ever seen. Some of the characters are great in this game. I really did like the writing. Even from this original game, there's always been a sense of personality and humor with the writing, and a lot of games, especially at the time, didn't have anything near that, let alone in an RPG, and so it was refreshing to see then. It's still refreshing to see nowadays, and it's great to see that even nowadays, that sense of humor, it's still in Paper Mario. So nice aesthetics, music, writing, and story aside, the game plays like a pretty standard RPG for the most part, with a nice Mario flair. You have 2 parts to the gameplay where you're walking around exploring the environment. You're talking to NPCs, you're interacting with Mario's various partners he gets throughout the game, you're jumping a bit, and you're solving the basic puzzle. Progression really is tied to the game's story and just moving on to the next area. And then you have the battles, which is the other big aspect of this game. The battles are where things are definitely more Mario-ized, where all the moves are centered around Mario. You can use the hammer, you can jump on enemies, and then of course you have some special abilities, but you interact with the game as you're doing the battles. So you gotta time your button presses, sometimes you gotta button mash. And really what this does, it allows you to stay very engaged with the turn-based gameplay, and Super Mario RPG did this as well. I think this game might even do it better. I think it really still does keep you engaged, and even nowadays, it's still really fun. Like, even the most basic enemies that you have no problem defeating, you'll still want to time those button attacks, and you'll still want to do as best as you can, and then you can even get some really good timing to avoid, like, getting hit altogether and minimizing your damage by blocking. I think it's actually really cool, and it's a really great system that, again, it makes you actually interested in the gameplay and what's going on at all times. A big part of this game is the partners. They all have unique abilities, and no 2 partners are the same. Obviously, this would be expanded on in the next game, but I still think it's actually pretty cool here, and having Mario's partners are great. I actually really do like the partners, not just because of their writing and design, but I do like having them here. I like everything that they generally do. And then as you defeat enemies, you level up, and you use these level ups to either upgrade your flower points, which is basically your mana, your HP, which is your HP, or your badge points, as across the game you find tons of badges you can equip, and these can give you buffs, debuffs, and even extra attacks that you will use with the flower points. And I really think that this is a great system. The game has a pretty good length to it also, taking well over like 20 hours on your first playthrough, and it's not a forgettable experience either. I know that it might seem like, oh, it's just another Mario RPG nowadays. No, this game is a classic for a reason. I would rank it as one of my favorite Mario RPGs because I think it is just a really great time. And yeah, it might have a somewhat basic plot, but I think it more than makes up for it with the writing, the humor, the dialogue, the characters, the general gameplay, the aesthetic, the music. All of that just really makes it come together to be just a great RPG. I think it's the best RPG on the 64, you know, because that's saying a lot. And I have no problem recommending this game to fans of the genre or Mario. It is also on the Nintendo Switch. Hold on a second. Before we talk about that game, let's talk about Bug Fables. You didn't think I'd forget about Bug Fables now, did you? If you don't know Bug Fables, well, you really should. It is an indie game developed in the same spirit as those old Paper Mario games. Not only does it have a similar aesthetic, but it is very similar gameplay. I played it back when it came out a couple years ago, and I gotta say, this game is fantastic. I've always been looking for a chance to talk about this game, and oh, I love me some Bug Fables. This game is so good. I don't know if it's still on Game Pass. It was for a hot minute, but I have no problem saying to absolutely check out this game. It's got a pretty decent story, some good writing, it's got a good sense of humor, and the battle system is actually really well done. I thought the battle system actually improves on Paper Mario's battle system in a number of ways, brings some modern sensibilities to it. Yeah, no, if you like RPGs, this is a must play. And I hope that one day this game really does get the attention it deserves, or maybe like a second game. It definitely deserves a sequel because this game was just great. Anyway, back to the regular schedule. And here we have Paper Mario and the Thousand-Year Door releasing in 2004 for the GameCube. And I mean, when it comes to Paper Mario games, when it comes to Mario RPGs, when it comes to like Mario on the GameCube, I don't really think there's any better than Paper Mario and the Thousand-Year Door. I mean, I know people have been going nuts for this game for well over 10-15 years now, citing it as one of the best RPGs ever, and you know what? I totally agree. I think Paper Mario and the Thousand-Year Door whoops some ass. It was the first game I played in the Paper Mario series, and it's one of the reasons I love RPGs today, as this game just did it all for me. And you know what? When it comes to the story, I'll just say that it all centers around this fabled, eponymous Thousand-Year Door and leave it at that. Like, the story, all these years later, is still so good. Like, it's incredibly engaging, it's endearing, it has so many good characters, the writing, the dialogue, it's all just here. It is all fantastic, and it's maybe the best story of any Mario game. I really mean any Mario game. It is just superb. There are so many original, great characters with excellent traits and dialogue here, way more than any other Mario RPG, and it's one of the reasons people love this game is how many just unique characters there are and how well defined they are, much more than Mario himself, who doesn't even like say anything. These other characters are great, particularly the partners you get. The partners in the N64 game were good, but the partners in Thousand-Year Door are great. And then the dialogue, the writing, it's just all superb as well. The presentation was great for the time. The music is iconic. There's so much good music in this game. Like, I could go on for a while about the presentation, but I won't. When it comes to the gameplay, it's not even really all that different from the original Paper Mario on 64. It's just a bit more expanded on and a bit better because of that. Exploring around in the areas is pretty much the same. You explore these 3D areas, everything's still flat, 2D, paper, and there's some gimmicks thrown here and there. For instance, Mario can turn into a paper airplane and fly around in these little areas, and you know, there's a bunch of other ones that come in depending on the chapter. Each of the chapters is basically the area, the level, and I gotta say, the pacing is actually really good throughout in this game. Like, Paper Mario on 64, I think had good pacing. The other Paper Marios, it's good to great, I mean, for the most part, outside of stupid Sticker Star, but Thousand-Year Door, oh, the pacing is so good. Anyway, so yeah, you're exploring these areas, there's a bunch of secrets, nooks and crannies, you gotta solve some puzzles, do some fetch quests, interact with some NPCs. It's nothing crazy, it's nothing you haven't really seen before if you played the first Paper Mario or Super Mario RPG, but it's the battles where things get even better. It really is a true expansion of the battle system from the original game, where, you know, it's turn-based, you still have to interact with everything, but Mario has a bunch more moves than just what he learned in the first game. The badges return, so you can also learn new moves from there. The partners are much more expanded on. They actually feel more integral to the team rather than just kind of being a little bonus, like they got their own health and everything. I think the partners are much more unique here, even if they are a little derivative of the characters from the first game, but they definitely felt more unique here. There's some bonuses like the crowd being here, and then leveling up really works the same way. You can level up the badge, flower points, heart points, etc. And I think it's just superb. Like, it really is awesome, and it was good in the first game. It really was. This is just slightly better. They didn't even do anything all that innovative or crazy or new. They didn't need to. The battle system was already really good from the first game, and now it's just slightly better. And so it's like, yeah, it's better. And the last thing I'll bring up for the Thousand Year Door is it's just such a memorable game. Like, it has so many iconic moments and so many parts to it that I just will never forget. Even all these years later, 15, we're going on almost 20 years later, and I still haven't forgotten a lot of this game's moments, plot points, characters. And why is that? Because it's so uniquely done. It's so well done, and it's like it's just never been topped, at least in my opinion. And it's one of the many reasons why so many people cite this game as like the Mario RPG. But not only do I think it's the best Mario RPG, but it's just one of the best RPGs, period. It's one of my very favorite RPGs and one of my favorite games probably of all time. Like, I have a lot of good memories with it, and you know, all these years later, I think the game still absolutely holds up. Sure, there's a couple parts like the train that I don't particularly love, but I think for the most part, it still holds up. It's still absolutely worth playing if you like Mario, if you like RPGs. If for some reason you haven't tried this game and have any fleeting interest with it, you should absolutely try it. I know it's not widely available and you're probably going to have to go to an emulator to try it, but I really do think it's worth it. The game is just fantastic. I have no problem saying that this is a must play. And so that's it for this video. That's all the Paper Mario games. I know it's probably not shocking that the Thousand Year Door is at the top. I mean, that's probably what most people are going to do, but hey, Thousand Year Door is just the best for me. Anyway, hope everyone has a good one. If you made it to this part of the video, comment cement, as in, you know, what goes on the ground or whatever else you're putting cement in. I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.